What's up, boys and girls? This is Spit Logic, and today I want to talk about patterns, kind of the life of patterns, and what you can do or how I go about in the process of going from just a single pattern to creating a sequence of patterns into a song. So for the purposes of this video, I have already done all of the preliminary steps as far as downloading the sample and getting to creating a pattern. Actually, I have a few patterns that I've already made, so we're going to just jump right into it. So first off, when we talk about a pattern, what is a pattern? So a pattern is a little bit different from the actual audio file in that where, if I look at this particular pad, and I hit start to end, this pad is an audio file. You can see the waveform for this particular pad. A pattern is, I would call it a programming or an automation. You're pretty much programming an automated sequence of how the pads are actually pressed in the sequence that they're pressed in. So for example, if I go into pattern select, and this is how you get into, the pattern mode, you can see I have 4 patterns already done here. Actually, I'm going to go into bank B. Actually, I have 5 patterns, as you can see right here. And if I press one of my patterns, so pressing that pattern, even though you're hearing the audio, if I get out of pattern mode, you can see down at the bottom where the drums are being sequenced. If I go to the extra bank, you can see the actual pads as they're being pressed over and over again, right? So that's essentially the difference between a pattern and actual audio file. And you can get to the point to where you turn those patterns into an audio file, actually into a song, but I'm not going to get in that today. I will probably talk about that in a different video. All right, so now that we're back into pattern mode, so a few things that I do. Number one, when I am finishing with the number of patterns that I have, typically I do about 4 different pattern sequences, and kind of the foundation of a lot of the patterns is the drum. My drum sometimes stays the same throughout, and I like to save it just in case I want to do something a little bit different. So if you see in pad 16, this is where I've stored my drum. So that is only the drum, and typically I have it in pad 1, but I switch those out so that it'll be separate from what I'm trying to do. Now, number one, when I deal with the patterns, when I put them together, typically I do a 4-bar pattern. But for the sake of most songs that I do, I like to do 8 bars per pattern. So one thing that you can do in order to edit or in order to elongate or shorten that pattern. So if you are in pattern mode, by hitting the pattern select button, get into that mode first and then hold down the shift key and go into pattern edit. So the moment you go into pattern edit, you're going to see the actual pattern that was pressed, which was the drum pattern. That was the last one that I pressed down. And you can see right here a little bit of information on the screen. So the top left corner is going to have the BPM, the beats per minute. And then the middle one has the loop start. Now, for the life of me, I cannot change this loop start portion, no matter how much I've done it. I don't know exactly what it is about it. I feel like it should be able to, similar to when you go into loop mode for a sample, but that's just me. The third control knob is to change the length of it, the start and the end. So if you turn it here, you'll see it going back and forth in size. And you see right here, this indicates the length, the current length of the actual pad. So you can go as far as 4 bars but it's by the bar. So I can't go in between the bars. It has to be by the bar. So I can do anything from the total number all the way down to only one bar. You see when you play it, the little cursor going back and forth. So what if I want that 4-bar pad to be actually an 8-bar pad? The simple thing to do is, you see in the bottom right corner where it says menu. If I push the enter button, then the menu pops up. You have duplicate, crop, and cancel. All you have to do is hit the duplicate and it will double the length of the pattern. So if I hit duplicate, and you see now it has gone from 4x4 to 8x4, 8.4. Even down at the bottom, the measures was 4, it's 8. And of course right here, I didn't mention this before, but this is the particular pattern that you're manipulating. So it's pattern in bank B, pad 16. That's what that means. So additionally, what if I want to shorten it? What if 8 bars is too long? Very simple. That's what the link button is for. So if you go in the link button, let's bring it back down to, let's say 4 bars, half to what it was before. Now, you can put it down to those 4 bars, but in order to make it stick, and I guess if I had to compare this to an actual audio loop, the truncate feature that would cut off some of that excess audio that you don't want. In order to do that, push that menu button by pushing the start enter button and then go down to crop. That will ensure that it sticks. So I hit enter and it's going to ask, are you sure you want to cut this in half or cut this to the size you want it to go to? I hit OK and I'm back to a 4 measure pattern. You see down here, measures 4. So even though I think, this beat is sick, like this is a really good beat, it's a dope beat, it's always really good to have a little bit of variation in your beats, right? So hip hop music is very sample based. A lot of the music I enjoy is loop based, but it's those nuances, the breakdowns, which can add a little variety and add a little spice to your beat, even if you're kind of using the same sound bed and same loops. So for these 4, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make copies of each of them, and then I'm going to ensure I have them corresponded with the pad right below them. So it's the same thing as with doing it with the pad. If I want to copy, I will hit the copy button first, and it'll ask right here, which one? That's B1, and I want to copy to B5. So I hit the copy button again. You can hit the copy button or the enter button, and it'll go and copy it. So now I have an exact duplicate of that particular pattern. Okay, so now that I have duplicates of each of the patterns, I can start to manipulate it. So you remember at the beginning when I was talking about how patterns are the automation. They are the sequence of the pads. It's not audio, even though audio comes out of it. This is what makes the pattern manipulation so awesome. So if I want to change something about, let's say, pattern number 5, what I'll do is what I've done typically is I'll start with the record, right? So I'll hit record and I'll select this pad. I wouldn't worry about the quantization strength, just ensure it's at the same bars and the same BPM. So I hit record again and it'll start counting down. Now this is the thing different that you're gonna wanna do. So the music will start playing, and if you hit delete while it's in record mode, you'll see these pads light up blue. What that means is that when you press down on these pads, it will erase in real time the pads that should be pressed down at the time. So let's do it right now. I'm gonna take out just the snare. All right. Just a simple thing. Just a simple thing such as just taking out the snare just gives it a whole new feel. So you go from 2 . Okay, so now that I have created some variances of these particular patterns, I guess the next question becomes, what do you do with these patterns? How do you create a song and put these patterns together? Well, that's a feature that is on the Mark II, which is the pattern chain feature. So how do you get into the pattern chain feature? What do you do with it? So first, make sure you're in, of course, pattern mode. And if you press the hold button, so if I press on the hold button, the screen will say, please select chain 1 through 16. And you see that the pads are now blinking green. So let's just pick number 1, and you'll see this grid come up, even though, and of course, once you let go of the hold button, your patterns are going to come back up. What you can do in this chain, in this grid, is this is where you will put your different patterns, and it'll play the patterns from left to right and then go down each row from top to bottom, left to right. So let's go ahead and just put some patterns in. 2, 3, 4, 2, 7, 4, 2, 1, 4, 6, 1, 8. And there you have it. So a couple of things about this particular mode. So if you look right here, you can see there's this little cursor that you can manipulate with the push enter knob. Specifically where this box is lit up, this is where the pattern chain is going to begin. So in order to start the pattern chain, you hit the sub pad, and when you hit it, it'll start playing it. Now, a few things that you have to recognize what happens. Number 1, this pad is the one that's playing right now. And right now that pad is lit up white because that is the pad being played. You look up here, you see B3 as the next pattern to be played. It's also lit up here. So when we get to B3, now B3 is the pad that is being played. And of course, as you can see, B4 and B4, right? So if you want to stop the pattern, you just hit sub pad and that stops it. So if I scroll to B7, or let's say I scroll to B4, if I push enter, you see B4 is now lit up. Additionally, you can see here on your Mark II, B4 is solid while B2 is blinking. And that's because B4 is the first one that's going to be played. B2 will be the second one in that sequence. So if I hit sub pad, that one is playing right now. So let's say we have a couple of sequences that we want to do. We want to make a complete beat, and the amount of pads or the amount of boxes that are here, that isn't enough for me to make a complete song. So if I hold down the hold button, I can go into another pattern chain. So this is pattern chain 2 on pad 2. And let's just put some more pads in there, right? Let's put some more pads in it. And what you can do, you can chain the chains. You can link the chains together. So if I push hold and go back to pattern 1, and we'll start playing it. During that pattern being played, if I push hold while it's being played and go to pattern 2, you'll see right here that white square has an arrow in it. So even if I scroll it around and push enter, that is going to be the next pad to be played, and you see it lit up. So now I'm in pattern chain 2, and it's being played, and it's playing B3. So additionally, if I go back to chain 1, you see automatically it's going to go to B2. But let's say with the cursor, let's say I want to go to B8. I want that one to get played next. And then it'll get played. You'll see. And there you go. So this is a pretty quick video. I just wanted to kind of quickly go over patterns and how I operate when I deal with putting patterns together, kind of chaining them into a song. I hope you guys got something out of it. I appreciate the listen and the view. And until next time, peace.